Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Tony here. Tony, you're the man behind Kona Ice, really incredible company that provides like the best in class experience for what the traditional ice cream truck was doing now with more flavors and things like that. And I've been a long time person that's really enjoyed what you've created for many years. And I think that it's been really innovative too, like with Flavorwave, a unique dispenser that you have a patented on. You also have much less sugar than the traditional snow cones. So you've done a lot of things that are better. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Well, thank you. I just appreciate you noticing that we have 40% sugar reduction because no one seems to notice that. And we spent a lot of time, energy, effort, and money trying to get that to a product that was a little healthier. Not that it's a multivitamin on wheels, but it's certainly a lot healthier than just traditional straight high fructose corn syrup. So it's good. So thank you, Ben, for noticing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the efforts there are definitely important.
Yeah.
So just going back to the beginning, how did your interest in general in like the world of entrepreneurship and in this specific area like begin?
Well, I mean, I said this before. My dad was a vacuum cleaner salesman, and his whole life, and that's how I knew him as a vacuum cleaner salesman. And now he was higher up in the company, and by the time I was in high school, I think he was the president of the entire company. And so we lived very well. He did very well. So I was thinking, this is the epitome of life because I had friends whose parents were doctors or lawyers or in construction or whatever, and we seemed to live better than them. So I thought, bless their hearts, their parents just haven't succeeded to the level that my father has as being a vacuum cleaner salesman. So I had a fairly screwed up, thought process there. So I just always gravitated toward. And I'll have this one experience when I was in high school. I was working at the Gap for $3.35 an hour. Never forget that because I requested $5 an hour, and they said no. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. I thought it was an option. So, and I remember going home and they cut my hours at some point because I was winning the contest. And so they cut my hours back and I was frustrated and I went home and my dad's just this, I don't know, in my world, he's this iconic fountain of knowledge. And he said, what are you upset about? I said, well, they cut my hours down because I keep winning the sales contest. And he goes, Tony, listen, buddy, if you're going to work for somebody, you are always going to be subject to all their rules and their regulations and everything. If you want to get outside of that, work for yourself. And, even as a 16, 17-year-old kid, it made enough sense to me to thought, yeah, you're right. So I did. I started detailing cars. I was doing a little bit at the time, but I started a little business detailing cars. And I'll never forget, Ben, I was at City Park Pool in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and there were 7 cars getting detailed that day. This is in probably 84. There were 7 cars getting, and I was at the pool with my girlfriend. And I was making about $25. I was paying them good. I paid for all the materials and set up all the things. And so there were 7 cars, $25. I was making $175 that day at the pool. And I thought, this is how I want to live the rest of my life. Like this is it. I've reached the pinnacle of success. So from that moment on, I knew I always wanted to work for myself.
Mm-hmm. So how did the idea specifically for Kona Ice originate? Like, I think based on what I've read and listened from what you said, you saw that there was this kind of dilapidated ice cream truck and you're like, we can do this better. Could you just talk a bit about that?
Yeah. And like I said earlier, I think here's this iconic institution that's embedded in our society that I grew up with. All my friends grew up with. Everyone knows of the ice cream truck doing neighborhoods. But if you think about it as a great experience, you almost have to go back to black and white. And because the color version of the ice cream truck, today's version, is not as wonderful. I think we were a generation away from this thing disappearing completely. They're not going to allow, society's not going to allow dilapidated 72 Chevy vans with blue smoke rolling out of it, with questionable characters driving it, going through our neighborhoods, interacting with our children. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like this is a wonderful opportunity to possibly revive a dilapidated institution and do it better and do it bigger and better. And it's just kind of one of those things that happened. And I was at right place, right time with the right idea. And a lot of it goes back to that. I will I will argue with anybody that luck plays a huge role in sometimes the success of a business, and I'm lucky.
What did Truck One look like? Like, how different was it from today? What were like the main features you had in Truck One?
Ben, I love Truck One still drives around in Boone County, not very far. It's 18 years old. It's we call it a Frankenstein because we just keep putting parts on it to keep trying new things. It's got a lot of miles on it. I just it'll go a couple miles out from the office, but I don't let it go too far. I love that baby. Uh, Someone said put it in a museum. I'm like, I don't know what museum's going to take it, but it still makes money every year, so I can't let it go. But the graphics, the original graphics, I remember when I got the first truck in 2007, and I drove it over to my dad's house, and I pulled it up to my house, and my kids were there, and I was so proud, and I had spent so much money. I was so far in debt, and the graphics were a little pixelated. If you can think about maybe Atari back in the 70s or 80s, and how everything was, and it's still a little pixelated because we blew the graphics up so big to go on this truck. The sky was kind of greenish; it wasn't blue, and but my God, it was beautiful. I just thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. From a distance, if you squint your eyes and blur your eyes, it was incredible. But get right up on it, it had some flaws. But the mechanics were there, and so I got the first truck. I got in it. I'm driving it around. I'm making notes. I called my manufacturer. I said, okay, change this, put this here, change this. I want this over here. And so we built the second truck, and it shows up, and it's like, okay, this is much better. And then the third truck, I did that through 5 iterations of trucks. That's all I'd ordered in the beginning, and got to a truck that I was really happy with. We built, I think, 18 of those in 2008, and then 50 of those in 2009, and then 62 or something like that in 2010. And it just took off from there. I think in 2011 we went over 100, and then we haven't been under 100 except for COVID year. We did 85 in COVID. But the trucks get better every year. Ben, what we do is we talk to the franchisees. Now I'm not in a truck. So we have these big ideations at our convention. We get a lot of great people in the room, and we start talking about, things we'd like to see changed on the trucks. And we get a lot of feedback from there. We get a lot of feedback from our truck support teams that talk to the franchisees to support them. And but the trucks now are, no generators, all lithium ion phosphate battery systems, big battery management software, monitors on the side of the truck that display this incredibly high lit graphics, the backlit menus, the lit boards on top, the shaver is incredible now. Just all these different things that have taken the truck to a whole nother level. I get in a new truck now, and I'm like, surprising I could even be successful back with the truck that I have. But no, it's really good. Very excited about it now.
So how did you go and start to get initial sales? Like what was the thinking? Like, hey, we'll just drive this in areas where traditional ice cream trucks go. Like, what was kind of the pitch to that point?
It was. I was trying to get a neighborhood to over $1,000 a night, and that was the thing. I had some experience in a Mr. Softy truck. A friend of mine had bought a Mr. Softy truck. He couldn't get it to make money, and he was asking me to help him. I was doing some other work for him in another business, and I looked at the process and the business model and everything, and I thought, well, a couple things need to be changed, but that's what it was. The original goal was to get to neighborhoods over $1,000 a night, and that's about regularity. That's about being in the same neighborhood the same time every single week, so people can depend upon you. And we were really successful in 2007. But then at the end of 2007, the neighborhoods start declining because of school. It starts getting dark earlier. We weren't able to do that. But then you also realize, man, this truck could be phenomenal at high school football games on Friday night, or at the festivals or the fairs and things like that. And so that business model gradually moved from the neighborhoods. And then you have 2008 hit, Ben, and I don't know if you were alive in 2008, but it was an economic downturn. Read about it in your history books. It was challenging, to say the least. As this thing rolls in, neighborhoods were declining, but the model of turning it into a fundraiser and going to schools and raising money for organizations, the PTAs, instead of in 2007 where I'm showing up at the schools and the PTA's paying for everything, I'm showing up at schools and saying, let the kids pay and I'll give the PTA back a percentage. So the PTA is organizing this whole thing for me, and it's taking off very well. And the business model had flipped and to become a revenue share or a give back or a money raised component. And the thing just exploded. And now I think very, very few of our franchisees run neighborhoods. And there's 1,900 franchises around the country, and very few of them run neighborhoods. But I think they're somewhat iconic now at this point. I think a lot of people have seen them. You said you grew up with one. That brings a tear to my eye a little bit. So, what part of the world are you living in?
Right now in Florida, but I was in Arizona. And then here, like, they're a part of just the traditional culture. Like, there was one just very recently at like a fair kind of event, and you see them all the time.
God bless you, Ben. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm still taken back. It's very surreal to me to driving down the street in or I was in an airport. I was on one of those people movers, and I had a Kona Ice shirt on, and this whole family, this lady with her 3 or 4 kids, and she kind of glanced at my shirt or whatever, but then all of her kids went and they pointed to it. And I was like, it's just the greatest feeling in the world. I just can't get over it sometimes that we're that ubiquitous, I think, in society, which not saying that we've arrived by any stretch of the imagination. So we'll get there eventually, but I think we're winning customers one little cup of shaved ice at a time. So
100%. I think like what you were just mentioning before, like a lot of that's the branding you have. Like you've got this like fun animated penguin, you have like very colorful, like how did that branding start to really originate, and like how important do you think it is to have this mascot as part of your brand?
I think every brand needs some personification, and it needs to relate to, I mean, even if you go back, and I think a lot of brands have kind of gotten away from that. And I think especially when you're a kid-centric brand, I think they want the personification to tie to a person or an animal or whatever, the penguin, Kona. And I think brands that come out today that have, names that are cool and hip and cool and groovy maybe they're not as kid-centric. If you're going to speak to children and you're going to be involved in that space, I think you need something that they can identify and latch onto. And so Kona's been that for us. And it was, I just had this inspiration where I thought, shaved ice comes from the Arctic. The natural mascot would be a penguin, but it's a tropical scene. So let's create this backstory of him, getting lost on an iceberg and showing up in a tropical island, but having the hankering, for shaved ice, and then all of his friends helped him find the fruit juices to put it on there, and it worked. It worked well.
It definitely has worked well. I think the branding has been really attracts people, and like when you see a truck, it's a very fun. It looks like it's a fun experience.
Yeah, that was the goal. I wanted people to have that moment, especially even adults, to have that moment of escape, that they can be on a tropical island, they hear the music, they see the shaved ice, there's a friendly face in the window, they get this great experience. And it's like a little 15-minute vacation when you run up to a Kona truck. And that is the goal, and to have the interaction to be, synonymous with that. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. So one of the best like innovative aspects that you guys have done is Flavorwave, that dispenser. Like, how did that idea like happen, and how have you been able to execute so well on it? Because I think that's one of the most important pieces of the trucks.
I think it came down to my partner had 2 sons, and they were twins, and they were very unique kids, and very capitalist. And I told Ed, I said, I was always working on speed of service, because I think in the mobile business, speed of service is extremely important. And I said, I'm going to put the flavoring on the outside of the truck and let people just get what they want. And Ed said, I think that's a terrible idea, because people will just run it into the ground. I said, well, if you can get the economics right, I said, I think the value create is better than what the product loss would be. Huh. And we're sitting there talking to his kids, and I think they were 8 or 9 at the time. Again, cool kids. And I said, hey, Guys, if a truck pulls up and they handed you a big old fresh cup of snow out the window and you went to the side and you had 10 spigots that you could put on whatever flavors and however much you wanted, would you be excited about that? And they both, and they're twins, they both turned to each other, looked at each other, and said, "Yeah, we would kill you on that. We would bankrupt you on that." I don't know if they said the word bankrupt, but they said we would kill you on that. We would get so much syrup, and I'm like, but the value is so good there, and the creation, the interaction. I just think it was too good not to do. And there were some companies out there that had standalone self-service things or whatever. And they were dabbling with it, but nothing to the extent and to the place that we were going to do it. And we did it. We did it well. At the end of the day, we did it well, and it took off and worked. So
Yeah. I just remember like the experience of getting a snow cone from a traditional ice cream truck, and it's like in one package, pre-flavored, and then you go over to an ice truck, Tony, and you've got like all these flavors, and it's not like they're you can take as much as you want to an
yeah,
extent, and like that freedom is like exciting.
yeah, it's the keys to the candy store.
Yeah,
But and again, that product that comes off the truck is so hard. I mean, you have to have, just rake the skin off the roof of your mouth, and just, you got to wait for it to melt, and you bite the paper cone on the bottom to get the flavoring. It's just, that whole presentation is horrible. But to be able to serve a big cup of fresh, fluffy snow in 3 or 4 seconds and allow people to create their own masterpiece, it's not rocket science, but it's really cool, and it does elevate the experience quite a bit.
definitely. So
Yeah.
you decided to kind of go with the franchise model. That's been pretty successful for you guys. How do you execute well from a quality standpoint and make sure that all these trucks are the same kind of level? And why has that model been so great for you?
Well, I mean, when you start this, you can do a couple different things. You can run it all corporate, you can license it, or you can franchise it. I didn't have the capital, and I didn't have the access to capital to keep it all internal. I thought that would be the logistics of that would be a lot. Um, and then I have to continue to raise capital and continually bring in investors. Licensing didn't give me enough control. I thought to maintain a brand that I really wanted to build. So franchising was the option. It's expensive to start franchising because you've got to get these FDDs. You got to get it approved in all the states. It's a big ordeal, and but it gives you enough control to maintain the integrity of the brand. And it's been good. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the people that you get in business with have to reflect and have similar values of what they want to do with the brand. And I had a call this morning with a gentleman from, wait just a second, down near Houston, Sugarland. And the territory had just opened up. He's very excited about getting involved. And he said, and we talked about this. And my question always comes back to this, Ben, it's what do you want to do with this brand in your community?
Mm.
And he said, I want to take the brand in my community and I want to make the community better. And he just said, whether I've said this too much outside, I want someone to take the brand and create joy and laughter and experience in their community. And as corny as that sounds, it works. And so you get in business with people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different mindsets, but the commonality of take this brand and do something phenomenal with it is really what's kind of holding it together. I'll be honest, there's 800 franchisees now, and
Mm.
it's a lot. It's a lot because they all don't think exactly alike, and they've all got their own agendas to some degree. But it's very usually, I mean, it's just, you say 800 franchisees and 1,900 franchises with another 1,000 other points of sale, with ancillary products. You say, well, that's a lot of people to maintain, because if 2% of them or 3% of them, are tough to deal with. Well, 3% of 800 is still 24 people. That's a lot of people to try if they go rogue on you, so to speak. And no one's going rogue. It's just expectations are different from time to time. But for the most part, Ben, we've had this franchisee satisfaction, the highest in recorded history according to FBR, Franchise Business Review, for 12 years now, I think. It's been phenomenal. We just got our results in a month ago, and results are better than they were last year. So we're so close to the perfection, 99% of people, or whatever the number is, and it's good. So we're doing the right things, but hanging on, trying to keep everybody happy. It's not easy.
Yeah, well, how can you not have fun if you're operating a Kona Ice truck?
Exactly. I think so too. I think so. It's that dang social media. When the season ends and all the franchisees get on the social media, merciful heavens. Uh,
So you also decided to roll out the Kona Mini, like a more indoor like version. Why did you decide to do that, and like how important has that now been to the bottom line compared to having the traditional trucks?
I think it elevated the business model to the north. It allowed us, when the season went in, we could go inside, and it was very helpful in the fact, and it's just great ancillary piece. I think there's probably 300 minis out there. There's 300 or 400 kiosks out there, which is it's a little bit bigger of a product. But the mini will fit through a standard doorway, and you can get inside and do a ball tournament, or you could do a basketball tournament or a show choir event, things like that. And it's just another revenue stream that's allowed our franchisees to extend their season, and also it's another footprint when seasons are big. I'll tell you, in fall, in Friday nights, you can't have enough pieces of equipment. Friday night football, they request a lot of equipment, so it's big. But the mini, the kiosk, the trailers, all these things that we've come up with over the years has really helped out people extend their season and be able to make more money.
Mm-hmm. And then just on like the actual aspect of like the product itself, like you've been able to reduce the sugar like so much, and this is something that a lot of kids are consuming, so it's great you've done that. How did you actually accomplish this while retaining the flavors and the taste that people love?
I was sitting in the second floor, and a tractor trailer pulled up, and it unloaded 22 pallets of cane sugar. And it filled up one of the bays, and I looked down and I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And I don't mean to say, let's get this thing all synthetic and, because I think that's probably worse than pure cane sugar. I reached out. I started contacting some local companies and inquiring about getting some sugar reduction. And I thought, I don't think anybody's trying to go. It seems to be in the soda pop world. Soda pop, listen to me. And in my world, in the soda pop world, it's either 0 or 1,000,000. It's never, hey, let's reduce this. And I said, I want to keep the taste profile. Let's use all natural substitutes like stevia, monk fruit, things like that. Let's use these kind of artificial sweeteners. I don't want to use a sucralose. I don't want to use aspartame, anything like that. I want to use as much of a natural base as I can. And we've been able to do that, and we got it down to a 40% sugar reduction. We vitamin fortified it, put some vitamins in it, and it became a good product. And then we did all kinds of taste panels. It's funny because if you go to 50%, it picks up a lot. If you go to 30%, it's not that much different than 40%. So kids have a pretty distinguishable palate when you're kids, because you get older, you just wear those taste buds off. I think there's 10 million receptacles on your tongue and stuff, but over the years, as you eat Captain Crunch or whatever, it just wears those taste buds off your tongue, and you're not as. That's why I think people get older, they like more bitter tasting things, beer and Brussels sprouts or whatever. But kids are very, very sensitive to that. So it was important for us to run large taste panels for a long time, but our franchisees use it. I feel good about it. I don't think anyone knows. I'm glad that you brought this up on this podcast, because I hope millions of people see this and know that we are trying to be conscious of the sugar that people consume, and just be a little bit responsible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how the levels of the taste it can affect, but I don't think anybody's really noticed any difference.
Yeah, I agree. I can't tell a difference. So.
Yeah. So now you've expanded. I think you're in Canada as well as the U.S. You're trying to expand more internationally. What are some of your goals there in terms of like international growth?
I get a lot of inquiries from international growth, and the problem is I need someone that will just take the brand and build it in their space, and not dependent upon me to build the truck and all these things. I have the business model, but the business model will vary
Mhm.
in country to country. We talked to some very big players in South America, but the philanthropic is just kind of a foreign idea to them. And so that part of the business cycle doesn't work, but the economics are different. You invest in a truck, but there's plenty of space for it, but we just haven't found the right partners. And I don't want to turn my attention away and put a lot of attention on international development. So what I'm most interested in, and people that we're talking to are people that will run it and build it from the ground up, and let us consult them and how to do it, and give them access to the flavoring and the LTOs and the systems and processes, the support materials, things like that. That's what we want to do. So it'd be a very light thing, but I don't want someone to also tarnish the brand. So it's Canada is basically the U.S. In most levels, but they have a 6-day selling season up there. It's not a whole lot of
Mhm.
warm weather, but they're doing very, very well. They're great people. They're some of the nicest people you've ever met. Like, wow, is all people in Canada that nice? Um, Very nice.
Yeah. And just the last question I have, like, what are your goals at this point? Like short-term, long-term goals, like for yourself personally, and then also for the brand. Like, where do you see it going? What's your big picture vision?
Well, we launched a coffee concept called Traveling Toms. Actually, I just see it there on the screen.
Yeah.
I've got a coffee academy is going on right now. We have about 40 people downstairs going through the last moments of Coffee Academy. They'll graduate here in about 30 minutes, and then 20 Traveling Tom's trucks will take off. That'll put us over 200, I believe, franchises across the country. It's a coffee truck, mobile coffee cafe. It's doing very well. I think that's some of our future. As far as Kona goes, though, product development, LTOs, different avenues for this. You really rely on the franchisees to bring a lot of great ideas and stuff to the table, and then corporate puts manpower behind those things and polishes them up, and then be able to roll it out to the franchisee body. So we get a lot of good feedback. We have a great franchisor relationship, I think, and it works out really well. So I think Kona continues to evolve and develop. We've got a couple ideas that I don't think I can talk about right now just yet, but I would talk about. So do a follow up in about 90 days. I might talk about it, but just a line extension on Kona
Mhm.
that we want to go to. It's testing out very, very well in prototyping. I've got about 12 franchisees testing them out. So never stop innovating, never stop pushing forward, never stop trying to create value for our franchisees and allow them to continue to grow. But Tom's, I've even got a cookie concept.
Uh,
Tom's is named after my dad. The cookie concept's named after my mother. And I've only got 3 or 4 of those prototypes out there, and it's doing well. But it's a long journey. You just can't roll something out and expect everybody to go for it. You've got to flush it out, make sure it's viable. But we're really good at mobile. We've built this multi-million-dollar software program that does all the operational support,
uh,
and it allows franchisees, and then it's got this beautiful back-end marketing thing to it that works out incredibly well. So I think probably of all the things, it's probably the least sexy, but it's probably the thing I'm most proud of, because I think it brings our entire business model to a level of sophistication that really nobody has. I mean, so it's very unique, and we're continually building on. We're building this AI piece on it now that will completely interact with customers. And customer reaches out to a Kona truck, and sometimes it's 5 or 6 times back and forth. It takes a lot of time when you're talking a large operator. So this AI will handle 95% of it. And it's really going to go good. And we're adding that as a bolt on top of the software that we already have. So as I look at those things, and you look at the evolution of the brand and the evolution of the concept, it just keeps getting better. And then I think we can put more concepts on top of this platform, this foundation that we've built. We do have this secret sauce to mobile, I think, better than anybody else out there. Seems like all the big brands at some point call us and ask us, hey, will you consult with us? Will you tell us what you're thinking? And I'm usually very kind to some of the well, the biggest brand I think in the world, or I don't know about biggest, but it's a big one. Everybody knows it. They've been here to our facilities, walked through, and we've talked to them. I still talk to them. They're just trying to do it at a different level, and it's just challenging the way they're trying to do it. But listen, I'll talk to anybody at any time. I think bringing more people into the mobile space is good. I think it validates if the big boys get involved. It validates the industry. The industry is kind of a cool industry, Ben, because it's made up of a lot of very individual, eclectic people that have these cool concepts for food and go out and do a food truck. And we're trying to broaden that, so to speak. I think we do a lot for the industry because of for health codes and health violent or health um, the writing of health codes, the insurance models, all those different things. Because we're so large, we do a lot for the industry. Whether they admit it or whether they recognize it or not is indifferent. Because I think probably the individual is like, oh, that dang Kona Ice is showing up again. I'm like, do you realize what we've done for your health department in that area, just to try to help your life? What we've done in the insurance world, what we've done in several things, regulations and stuff like that. We've been good for the industry. We try to be a good partner, stuff like that. So I think the future is bright. I'm more excited now than I've ever been. I think just because of all the opportunity that's out there. So I'm thrilled.
Well, definitely, I'm always excited to see how you guys are innovating. I think you've really been a pioneer in this category, and it's great that you're trying to help others too to learn and to even enter this space. And that the other technology you mentioned, the software, I wasn't aware of the extent of that. That's fascinating. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what you do next, Tony, and how you continue to scale this and the other concepts that you mentioned, like the coffee concept, and wishing you much success.
Well, Ben, check in with us from time to time, and let's do updates. And I'll be more than happy to talk to you at any time. And I love what you do, man. I think that you're an interesting dude. I had to check you out 1,000 times because I was like, is this really legit? But man, your guest lists have been extremely impressive. I'm a Ben fan for that for sure.
Thanks.